The usual. They flip between hyping one stock, hyping 5 stocks. Week 12, once again, just nothing. The whole market kind of fell out of the spam business in about January 2007. And we didn't really know why from our perspective. And once again, we were a little sad. Week 13, the text-based people kind of lost their minds. They spammed 15 different stocks that week. I don't have the graph of that one because we kind of stopped graphing stuff at that point. We gave up. But, you're just talking about 15 little spikes. Boom, 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 the whole week long, and obviously no results. I don't know what happened, but they couldn't seem to understand why they weren't producing results. But we could because we saw everything, right? So what, right? What did all this analysis get? Well, what it gave us was that it meant that when we saw a spam email hyping a stock, we could predict the results in the future. We knew what was going to happen. So instead of waiting to see all the various researchers that you would have seen that were talking about stock spam in 2006, 2007, they were all talking after the fact. It was all hindsight. It was all this game of these results happened, and these were the emails that they sent out. So, oh, great, this is what happened. None of them were predicting anything. But what we were doing was predicting it every single week. So any given week, we would see one email come out. We would see the very first email for a stock symbol, and we would know what the result of that would be in the week. So we could be basically the first ones to buy it. So where does that put us? We buy the stock there, right after the spammer bought his, depending on the spammer. And then, we could kind of just ride the whole game exactly like he would, and just kind of take a piece of the pie of the touting that he had done without, dirting our hands in the world of illicit spam and whatnot. So that's what we did, right? The overall method that we did. We sorted each week's worth of spam by ticker symbol. We identified the spammer by the email style. We matched them to their past results. We identified the top spammer of that week. And then when the first email from that top spammer arrived for the next week's spam, we would buy that stock and then sell it eventually and, step 3, profit, etc. So did it work? Yes and no. No, it didn't. The method worked for a few weeks. Like I said, we were watching it. It was amazing. We all had incredible dreams of millions of dollars and Lamborghinis and whatnot. But then, that week 6, 7, the whole thing fell apart. All these spammers just stopped getting results. Nothing was happening. And, that's it. Those guys, whoever they were, lost $2 million or something and then disappeared, never to be seen in that kind of game again. And there was some speculation. I read a Google article at the time that they were saying that the entire quantity of spam at that time had taken some huge hit. Nobody was quite sure whether it was some mix of, botnet takedowns, ISP shutdowns, or software patches of various sorts. But whatever the case, the whole spam world was kind of took a hit at that time, and so the stock spam people stopped making money. Also, there was a major SEC crackdown at that time, which they called cleverly Operation Spamalot. Operation Spamalot in March of 2007, they started out by suspending trading on 35 of these penny stocks. Almost all 35 of which we had looked at and we had seen because these were the stocks happening. 2 guys in Texas, they were indicted for securities fraud. They eventually reached a $3.5 million settlement. It was estimated that they had made a total of $4.6 million in profits, but all these are so speculative, and even from the SEC's standpoint, it was hard for them to actually determine which stocks those people had been involved with. They nailed them on, I think, 13 different stocks, but who knows? Who knows what they were actually doing? And as it says here, the operation was actually started because an SEC attorney was getting that spam. So that's the one thing you want to not do if you're a spammer, I suppose. So the big question here, maybe it didn't quite work out for us then, but could it work again, right? In theory, if the botnets had still been able to push out their same level of spam and enough suckers had still been buying spam stocks for some reason, our method would have continued to work. So could it happen again? Could this whole thing come back? Maybe. I don't know, right? So I went ahead and I looked before this talk, back in April 2009, just a little while ago. I sorted through all my spam once again. I sorted through, maybe 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 spam emails. And I sorted them by what type of spam they were. And there was not a single stock spam. I was actually a little hurt, but we have drugs, scams, watches, diplomas, sex, books, jobs, and gambling, but no stocks. No stocks. So clearly, at least from what I can see of the spam, and really what I can, some people have asked me, well, you can't really say that there's no stock spam happening. There's no touting of these stocks. Well, yeah, that's true. But if I can't see it happening, then you all can't see it happening. And, Joe Schmo out who wants to buy these stocks, he can't see it happening. And in that case, it's not working. So, clearly, whether or not there might be a couple of these guys trying to do it, it's not working. It's gone. So, will it happen again? Maybe. I don't know. Spammers have given up on stock manipulation for now. If it starts again, our method will probably work again. Or will it? The question here now is, you all know about this. Okay, let's play this game. So you know how to do this. If you all go out and do this, if spammers start setting these again, and they now have a pool of people who understand what's going on and who will clearly buy into this, that'll produce increased liquidity, which will probably increase the spammer's initial profit. But the other problem will be the stocks they'll tank faster, right? Because all of you know that you need to get out as soon as possible. And you know that you need to get out before the spammers, and you know that you need to get out before other people like you. So you're all going to buy in and get out really, really fast. So that time frame on that little blip of what happens to the stock, it starts getting shorter and shorter and shorter until eventually there's a tiny little blip and maybe it just crashes like crazy at that point. And there's literally nobody buying it because the only suckers are you, right? There's nobody else buying the stock. So it's kind of an artificial demand created by my talk. Okay. So we start there. Maybe it'll still work. Or maybe I've created a new meta strategy to act on the fact that you know, that I know, that you know about this. Okay. Maybe. Only time will tell. So now, I'm open for questions. Any questions? Sorry. Go ahead. Good question. He was asking whether we checked the other markets, European, Asian, etc. No, we didn't at the time. We didn't look at any of those. The biggest question there for us was that we considered these issues, but we didn't see that stock spam, right? And we don't read, Korean or whatever. So even if we were seeing them, we don't know what that means. But for instance, I know, I've got in my notes there was a German group that was doing this on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange in late 2007. They had actually evolved from graphical-based emails to PDF-based emails. That was their new way to get around it. And they had big success. They were also caught and prosecuted and all that good stuff. But it does evolve, and it does move to other markets. I have no doubt that the Asian markets could see this. I don't know if they've seen it yet so far. Next question right here.
I was wondering when they had greatly crashed.
Right.
I was wondering, do you have any indication as to why it might have crashed? Were there any maybe signatures in the graphics that the spam filters started picking up on, or what?
Right. She's asking, do we know anything about why it crashed there in week 7? Why those guys lost a ton of money? Did the spam filters magically catch all of their graphics? I have no idea. I really wish I knew better. Like I said, the scope of what we did is fairly limited to the view that we had at the time. I've looked since then, and I've tried to look back and find the various articles and SEC investigations to piece together which exact groups and the names of the people that were doing the various different botnets and stuff. And you can find a couple, but the coverage of penny stock fraud is pretty limited, as you might imagine. Next question, right there. Right. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll answer that question real quick first. He said, what gave us the confidence to attempt to get a piece of this without thinking that maybe the SEC might investigate us too, thinking that we were a part of it? And yeah, we didn't know anything. That could have probably happened. I don't know. The biggest reason there that I think Yeah, well, the biggest reason was because the quantity of shares we would have been moving was minuscule compared to these large buyers, right? That was the biggest thing. So they probably wouldn't care about us. For college students, it would have been like a ton of money, but for these guys, not much. He asked, did we think of riding the curve the other way and shorting it at the high? The thing is, these are thinly traded stocks, so shorting doesn't really exist in that sense. Shorting does exist, but we can't do it, basically. Next person. You're right there. Good. That's a fantastic question. The question was, do we know why they picked particular stocks? There's a lot of possibilities, and I've read about a number of possibilities. In some cases, they were inside jobs, right? The spammer basically offered to the company to take a portion of their stock at a low rate and hype it up and make profit for themselves and the company. That happened. There were other companies that just had no idea this was happening. Just one day they woke up and their stock was flying all over the place and they had no idea what was going on. I think all types of this thing occurred. Actually, one interesting thing, when I talked earlier about how we could look at a stock and look at the previous few days or the previous week or so before they had spammed about it and determine their size of their buy-in, sometimes you would look at a stock and you would see no buy-in. Right? What does that mean? Well, inside job, right? So you could see both types, and to some extent you could guess at which type it was from looking at the previous week leading up to the spam. Next question. In the back. Right. So he's asking about what scale would we have to trade at from our little, college student side to make up for the transaction costs of trading these shares. Because he's astutely pointing out that when you trade in these thinly traded stocks, most brokers, they're going to charge you some kind of larger fee than normal. We found it wasn't a problem. Even buying a few thousand shares, it totally made up for it. Because normally you have that problem with trading these sorts of shares, because trading these sorts of shares in a legitimate context, you would expect the changes in price to be like 5%, something like that. So you start getting close to your margin there. But in this case, we were looking at changes of 50%, or doubling our money, or tripling our money, right? In which case the 5% premium they might charge on those shares didn't matter anymore. Yes. Yeah, he's asking about, did we look at more of the content of the emails? For instance, the content that these spammers were claiming. You look at these emails and they say things like target prices and target, dates, like they've got all this cool insider information. Really, we found that for the most part, we looked a little bit at it, but it was all noise to the best of our judgment. The target prices they did, they were just arbitrary. I mean, even the example you can see right here on the screen, the right side, WEXE, that was that week where those guys... More the target dates? Yeah, the target dates didn't mean anything either. The only thing that correlated with anything was the volume that they were able to send out. Because to the targeted user group, right, you expect that their view of it is not about what the date range is. Excuse me. They just want to get into it as soon as possible, right? So everybody rushed in as soon as they decided that. We didn't see any correlation to these various things, because it's not acting on real information, right? There is no press release coming out. There's no product. Yeah, from what we saw, I don't think the duration of their spamming campaign ever actually correlated to what was going on. Sometimes you would see, especially earlier on in 2006, you would see the spamming campaigns kind of, the trading would last more than one day. Later on, as you approach December 2006, January 2007, the trading was all done within one day. The demand just couldn't put up with 5 days of trading. Next question, right there. Mm-hmm.